Welcome to my presentation on Friar Lawrence in Act 2 of Romeo and Juliet. The concepts that I'm going to discuss here are these: the golden mean, moral relativism, situational ethics, God's grace versus man's will, and the entire soliloquy is a series of rhyming couplets. So the golden mean is simply when someone is trying to find a suitable middle ground. He or she doesn't want to be in the extreme one way or another, but is trying to find a steady middle course. Moral relativism has to do with a philosophy that asserts that there is no global absolute moral law that applies to all people for all time in all places, and that morality is really cultural. It has to do with time, place, peoples, customs. Situational ethics is very similar, a system of ethics in which moral judgments are thought to depend on the context in which they are to be made rather than on a general principle. For example, we might all say it's wrong to murder, but in fact, the law says that there are situations where murder is justifiable. Someone's trying to strangle you or kill you. You have the right to defend your life. Um, and if you kill that person, it's not seen as the same as if you just went out and shot someone. So there's no absolute right or wrong. Everything has to be taken in context. When it talks about God's grace versus man's will, which he'll mention in this speech, God's grace has to do with God's mercy, God's design, the plan for our lives, fate, and destiny, as opposed to man's will, what we desire, what we want, and how we um, make choices that govern our future. And as I said before, we have a series of rhyming couplets in addition to several other literary terms that will apply. So, the friar begins by saying, "The gray-eyed morn smiles on the frowning night, checkering the eastern clouds with streaks of light, and fleck darkness like a drunkard reels from forth day's path and Titan's burning wheels." So in the first line, we should notice there's some personification. The gray-eyed morn. Morning has gray eyes. And frowning night. Night is frowning because night is going away. Checkering the eastern clouds with streaks of light. We have beautiful imagery there. Flecked darkness like a drunkard reels. We have a simile that the night is like a drunkard that's tottering off, I guess, to bed. From forth day's path and Titan's burning wheels. That should make us think of Helios, the sun, as this giant ball in the sky that can see all things we do. And it also makes us think of the wheels of the sun chariot that Apollo would have drawn. Now, ere the sun advance his burning eye, there's the personification. The day to cheer and night's dank dew to dry. We have some alliteration, dank, dew, dry, and we have day at the beginning. I must upfill this osier cage of ours. An osier cage is a wicker basket. So he's out in his garden early in the morning and he's picking different kinds of herbs, placing them in his basket. The word upfill, as opposed to fill up, is inversion or anastrophe. With baleful weeds and precious juiced flowers. And that is an example of antithesis, because baleful weeds could be deadly or evil, and precious juiced flowers would be something health giving. The earth, that's nature's mother, is her tomb. So we have earth, and we think of earth as something life-giving, but we also put our dead into the earth. So you have Mother Earth, but it's also a tomb because we place our dead there, and that would be an example of antithesis. What is her burying grave? That is her womb. So we place our dead there, they decay, and they bring forth new life. And from her womb children of diverse kinds, we sucking on her natural bosom find. Wonderful imagery of Mother Earth and how everything lives off the earth, gets life from the earth. Many for many virtues excellent, many good things come from the earth, none but for some, and yet all different. So many different things live off the earth, and the earth has many different sustaining properties. O Mikkel is the powerful grace that lies, and Mikkel here means abundant, very large, great in size. So, oh, great is the powerful grace that lies in plants, herbs, stones, and their true qualities. So this particular priest is a studier of natural phenomena. He wants to know what powers lie inside of earth, um, earth's plants, herbs, even the stones. People do warm stones and use them for healing. Um, for naught so vile that on the earth doth live, nothing is so evil on the earth, but to the earth some special good doth give. So think of a venomous snake. If it bites you, you're dead within minutes or hours. But that same venom, when distilled, becomes the antidote for the poison that you received during the snake bite. So you can't say that snakes are simply evil because you can also get the remedy from the same snake. And it's a way of saying there's nothing on the earth that is absolutely good or absolutely bad. And you should be hearing the relativism there. Okay? And this speech is very important because it sets us up for what's going to happen in the next speech. For aught so good, but strained from fair use, revolts from true birth, stumbling on abuse. So there's nothing that is so good that you can have it in unlimited quantities that it won't hurt you. So you can think of you take an aspirin. The aspirin is meant to heal you. You take a whole bottle of aspirin, the aspirin is going to kill you. Virtue itself turns vice, so good can turn to bad being misapplied, and something bad can turn to good when used in the right way, and vice sometimes by action dignified. So something bad, when used in the right way, can be for the good. Within the infant rind of this weak flower, so he's holding up a little flower, looking at it, poison has residence. Poison lives in the flower, but also medicine power. Medicine is in there too. For this being smelt, if you smell the flower, with that part cheers each part, so the flower can revive you. Being tasted, if you eat the flower, staves here means to stop or end, stays all senses with the heart. So the same flower that if you smell it, it revives you, if you taste it, it can kill you. Two such opposed kings encamped them still, in man as well as herbs, grace and rude will. So first we were talking about herbs and plants, Now he's changed the topic to men, to human beings. And he's saying the same thing goes for man as goes for plants. There's nothing that is so evil in men that it can't be used for good, and nothing so good in man that it cannot be corrupted and turned to evil. So when he talks about grace, that's the God's grace, and rude will, that's man's will. And where the worser is predominant, full soon the canker death eats up that plant. Now the whole idea of the canker death eats up that plant, we heard something similar to that in Act 1 with the bud bit by the envious worm. And that's why I put motif, the idea of having a beautiful plant, but something is destroying it from within. Something is killing it. It has a blight. Okay, so these were the concepts that we talked about. We talked about the golden mean, which is trying to find a middle ground, not being extreme in one sense or another. We talked about moral relativism, which is a philosophy that asserts that there's no global absolute in terms of right and wrong, that it's all contextual. It depends on the time period, the place, um, the people, the environment, the situation, which brings us to situational ethics, which is a system of ethics in which moral judgments are thought to depend on the context. Context is king. What's going on? Um, when that person was killed, what was the context? Okay, and then finally we talked about God's grace and man's will as two opposing forces in the universe. God has plans for us, but He gives us freedom of choice, and a lot of times we are at odds with His will. And it brings us to the theme that is in the play. Is it fate, a force beyond the power of Romeo and Juliet that will lead to their demise? Or is this all about their choices, their will? Okay? I think that's all I have for you today. I hope this wasn't too long. Shout out to my subscribers and thank you for your support. And thank you for my viewers in China. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.